Now, today we're going to study the investment decision making process. As we have already studied about the cost structures, ABC, with an objective like how the organization could know better about their cost structure, how they could have a better insight of their cost structure, which would help them to understand, the attributable cost to specific products. And then we learned about the modern business environment, and we studied that how to create the value in this new business environment. What are the dynamics of the new modern business environment? Then we studied the costing techniques, which include the target costing. We studied that how the organization could achieve the goal of achieving a certain cost which could make them competitive in the market. Now, when we uh, understand about uh, the costing techniques, the cost structures, the modern business environment, then we move to the data required for decision making, because in all the information that you would be collecting about your cost structure, about your revenues, that would be utilized to appraise the project. We studied that which cost and which revenues are relevant while we would be evaluating a project. Now, when we have the base, which has enabled us to understand the cost structure, the relevant the cost and revenue which would be utilized to which would be used to evaluate a project. Now we are moving to investment decision making process. That what is the process of evaluating any investment decision, and what are the techniques and tools which could be utilized to evaluate a project. So, the mic is on. Let me see Usman's. So I'm going to mute you, Usman. So, investment decision in this chapter, we will study the steps and pertinent issues in the decision making process, the investment decision making process. What is discounting? What are the real options? Then we would study about the investment appraisal techniques, the IRR and NPV. Why we would be evaluating a project? Because the organization they have to undertake the new projects, and the organization are faced with a situation where they would be having the multiple options, and in order to select the best option among all the available options, they will have to conduct a they will have to carry out appraisal of the available project, which will give them the insight or the information that which investment proposition is economically more beneficial compared to the other ones. So let's start this chapter. Uh, This chapter will focus on the steps that are typically incurred for simple as well as complex capital investment decision. One characteristic of all capital expenditure project is that cash flows arise over the long term. Under this situation, it becomes necessary to carefully consider the time value of money. Obviously, when we talk about the discounting, it means that if any project is spreading over a period more than 1 year, the time value of money concept would involved, and you will have to discount the cash flows. Why you will have to discount the cash flows? Because there is a term in or the concept in the economics: a dollar in hand today is better than a dollar tomorrow. And why it is a better than tomorrow? Because of the inflation factor, because of the risk factor. The money that you have in your hand today obviously is you are more sure about that money compared to the money which you might get tomorrow. So the concept of the time value of money translate into compounding and discounting techniques. Capital rationing, a key decision-making approach, then applies when the organization are faced with a situation where they don't have the unlimited resources, the organization have the limited resources, and they will have to deploy those limited resources in the best possible investment opportunity, right? So capital rationing is that you would be allocating your available resources for the investment projects in a in a best possible way. So flexibility can also be added to investment appraisal with the use of real option theory. Real option theory tells the certain things which are beyond the numbers, which would be taking into account certain intangible or the non-financial factor while taking a investment decision. So like you would study that if an investment is giving you some leverage about the time, like you are not compelled to take the decision immediately, that investment might get a preference over the investment which has a compulsion of time, and you will have to take a decision like today or otherwise that opportunity would be gone. So we will study these real options in detail in this chapter. What is the typical process of capital investment process? Capital investment. The first one is that the first step is that you would be identifying the objective search for opportunities. What could be the objective? The objective could be that the organization wants to grow, they want to expand their business. Like we do have an example of Angro in Pakistan. They were in fertilizer initially, but they have expanded their business over the period, and they have diversified even their business in areas which are not related with their core business of fertilizers. Then once you have identified the objectives, the other objective could be like you are in a business, and you are utilizing or you are deploying a certain technology. Now because of the technological advancement, you need to take a fundamental change in your organization. So you need to maybe automate your system. So you would be having various options to perform that activity. So you might have to undertake a project and to decide which would be the best possible solution to transform or to migrate from your current system to the new system. You will have to evaluate the different investment opportunities. The once once you have identified the objectives, you would be looking for the investment opportunities. That if we talk about the expansion, we will see that in which areas we could have the expansion. We want to expand in our core area, or we want to diversify, we want to go into the new markets, or we want to develop the new products. So that would be I mean that would depend on the strengths of the organization and the opportunities out there in the market, which will enable the management to take a decision about the various opportunities that could be exploited. Because obviously there would be a lot of opportunities out there, but it is not like that the organization always evaluate all the opportunities, because time is of essence. You do have the limited resources, you cannot evaluate all the possible and opportunities. And then identify the state of the nature. And the state of the nature is it would require to gather about the possible future environment that may affect the outcome of the project. Identify the states of nature, like what would be the future would be looking like. And example of state of nature include the economic boom. There would be a recession, there would be a boom, high inflation, or world shortages. Like there are certain areas which needs expansion, which needs more investment. Like those areas are not currently being served sufficiently. So you might see that there is an opportunity to expand your business to cover that market. And then you would see that is there any seasonality attached to that business? Are there cycles associated with that business, like the boom and peaks and valleys, we call them? Like in a world economy, we know that there is a there are peaks and then there are the valleys. There is always a recession after a certain time, like after 10 years or so there is a recession, then there's a boom, and then again there is a recession. So you would know about the nature of the business you are going to invest in. So list the possible outcomes. You would be listing the possible outcomes of all the alternatives that you do have in your hand, and then you would measure the payoffs, like you might be calculating the NPV, internal rate of return, and then you would select an investment project that you then, on the basis of the returns, you would decide that which investment is more appropriate for your organization. And once you have done that, you would be getting the authorization to implement that project. Normally the authorization is given by the board of directors, and then you would review the capital investment decision. Like if once the project has been implemented, you would keep a watch on it. And as we have studied in our previous chapter, that at certain point in time you might feel that this project might not give you the expected results, so you might have to take a decision to abandon that project. In that situation, we have already studied that what kind of cost you're gonna take into account. All these activities are segregated in three areas. The first one is the creation phase, which starts from identifying objectives till the identify state of the nature. And then the decision phase, this is the phase where you would be taking the decision that which investment would be more appropriate for your company, and you would be deciding that for which investment or for which project your company will go for. And then the implementation phase, once you are done with the evaluation and the decision has been taken, then there comes a implementation phase, and you would be practically implementing that project. So here the stage one, it has been explained like a little bit. It indicates that the objective or goal of the organization, most organizations pursue a variety of goals. For example, maximization of profit, maximization of sales, survival of the firm, achieving satisfactory profits, and obtaining the largest share of the market. These all objectives then would be translated into certain kind of strategy. If you want to maximize your sales, you might have to like add some attribute in your project, in your product. Survival of the firm, as I told you, like you might have to migrate from the current technology to the new technology. Then obtaining the largest share means that that might require you to expand your business. So achieving profit maximization in the long term will ensure maximization of the market value of shareholder. Okay. So the next step that involves search for the investment opportunities. Without proactive, deliberate search for creative project and opportunity, even the most sophisticated evaluation techniques are worthless. A firm's prosperity is dependent upon its ability to create investment opportunity. Sometimes the opportunity would be there in the market. The other times you might have to create the market for the product that you want to launch out there. Like we know that the big giants like Nestle and Coke, they are into kind of practices where they actually create the market for their product. If you could recall that, like some time ago, like a couple of decades ago, nobody had ever thought that we would be buying a drinking water in the bottles. So, but now, they launch the water, they make the people feel like they need to drink the bottled water. So now all of us are, buying water every day. So they created that opportunity actually. Stage three requires the data to be gathered. I have already explained you. Four, five, six are considered in detail in this chapter and the next chapter. That would be listing the possible outcome, measuring the payoffs. That's like about NPV and IRR. We would be studying in more detail about those techniques and about the things which are involved in all the three steps. And The next one is that it is essential to implement a sound system for approving capital investment process. Once approval has been obtained and initial outlay has been incurred, the firm is often committed to the project for several years to come. Approval should not merely be a rubber stamp. Like I told you that the board of director would be evaluating your investment appraisal studies in detail with a critical view, and if it would be making any economic sense, only then they would be giving you the authorization to implement that project. Then comes the last stage is important. Final step. This stage is usually achieved by carrying out a post-completion audit or appraisal. The audit is often initiated approximately 12 months into the investment. Like it is like more about like you would be recording the lessons learned from that project. Once you have completed your project, so you would review it and you would see that what your organization has learned from this project, and those learning would become a part of your knowledge repository. And whenever you would be your company would be involved in any project like the similar project, they might consult that repository and get the information. It means that they would be developing on the learning that organization has already achieved. The capital expenditure committee, a committee is usually responsible for overseeing the capital investment process. So they would coordinate capital expenditure policy, appraise and authorize capital expenditure on specific project, review actual expenditure on project against the budget. All the projects got a constraint. One of the constraint is the budget. Normally we call the triple constraint. The projects are have the constraint of schedule, because the project needs to be completed in a certain time schedule. The other one is the scope. The project it needs to achieve the set targets, and the third one is the budget. There is a trade-off between all these three constraints. Like if you would be increasing the scope, your schedule and budget might increase, right? So if you would be reducing the budget, you might have to compromise on the scope of the project. So these are in project management, we call them the triple constraints. In many organizations, multidisciplinary teams are working parties are set up to investigate individual proposal and report back to top management. Now we know that here, when the teams are involved, we will have to invoke the knowledge that we have learned about the management and leadership, and we will also study about the team building and the different stages of team development. So how these things are, the interrelated. When you are managing a team to carry out a project, it is not only that you would be taking care of the financial side of that project. You will have to look at the human side of that project as well. Such a team might comprise of a project engineer, production engineer, management accountant, and the relevant specialists like the personnel officer for a project involving sports facilities and canteen safety officers, etc. In capital investment appraisal, we initially assume that all cash inflows and outflows are known with certainty, right? In the project, we would be actually making the projection, we would be making the doing the forecast. So here, in order to determine the returns of a project, we will consider that the cash flows that we have determined are certain, and we might, deploy some technique to come to that cash flows, because we could deploy that, the possibility, the weightage, that criteria. I don't know, we have not studied it yet, we will study it. Like you could associate the probabilities with the returns or the cash inflows, and then on the basis of that probabilities, you could come up with the cash flow for each year. Once that has been determined, we will take it as a certain, and we will be evaluating our project on the basis of those cash flows. So sufficient funds are available to undertake all the profitable investments. That is also another assumption. There is a zero inflation, there is a zero taxation, right? Uh, these assumptions are all considered again in the next chapter. The time value of money, the concept of the time value of money, probably all of you are already aware with this concept. And the time value of money is that the dollar which you would be getting like 3 years down the line worth less compared to the dollar that you do have in your hand today. So the dollar which you would be getting 3 years down the line, you would discount it at a certain rate in order to make it comparable with the investment and returns. Like, because your investment would most of your investment uh, would be being incurred in the current time. So in order to make your investment and your returns comparable, you would, and the in the project's return would be spreading over like maybe 10 year, 15 year. So you will have to determine uh, the present value of the inflows which you would be getting over the period of 10 years. You would have to get the present value to compare them with your investment which you are incurring today. So this discounting is done normally on the weighted average cost of capital, WACC, that we have already studied, and we have studied it in detail, that how the WACC is determined and what are the factors which contribute to determine the that weighted average cost of the capital. So discounting, I'm not going to get into details, but here, the concept of the time value of money has been explained a little bit. Consumption preferences, because of the consumption preferences of the consumer. If somebody asks me that uh, uh, you give me the 100,000 which I'm supposed to spend on my on my living style today, and they ask me that you don't spend on your a car this 100,000 and give this money to me, I will give back you after 3 years, and then you can buy a car. But I will say that who knows that if even I would be there after 3 years or not. So I want to spend this money today. So he would say me like, what if I give you back like 150,000 after 3 years? Then I will start to think like, maybe this could be a good proposition if I can buy a certain the number of the things with 100,000. But if I would get 150,000 3 year down the line, that would give me maybe the more luxury to spend that money on the things which I can't buy with 100,000 today. So this is like, because consumption preference, people have the tendency to spend today compared to spend it tomorrow. So in order to compensate for these preferences, we have to discount that cash flow. Impact of inflation, self-explanatory. Risk, that has already been explained because of the risk. And now the compound interest. Some investor today will earn interest compounding, calculate the future value or terminal value of a given. What is a compound interest? Means that the money that you are getting in shape of interest is also being invested. So that is called the compound interest. So as a given sum, the investor today for a number of years, to compound a sum, the figure is increased by the amount of interest it would earn over the period. So this is a formula, a general formula. Um, Future value, initial investment, rate of interest, number of time periods. So this is a simple formula. You could see that example, and you would know that it is so simple. And then discounting performs the opposite function to compounding, right? Interest is like in when we invest our money somewhere in a bank, and it is we are getting interest on it, and that if that interest is also being invested, so it is called the compound interest. Now the discounting is opposite to the interest rate. Like, we would be getting the present value. In interest we get the future value. Like, if I invest 100,000 today, and if I get 5% each year, which is again invested in that with the same interest rate, after 5 years I would get XYZ amount. So discounting is that if I would get X amount of dollar on the fifth year, what would be the value of that X amount of dollar in in today's terms, right? So the potential investment project's cash flow will arise at many different points in time. Calculating the present value of future flow is a key technique in investment appraisal technique. So this is again a formula. You could see it. It is again just like this same kind of formula you have studied for the compound interest. So it would be giving you the present value. The cost of capital is in the above discussion, we have referred to the rate of interest. There are a number of alternative terms used to refer to the rate. A firm should use to take account for the time value of money, that is cost of capital, with weighted average cost of capital, if you could recall it, discount rate, required rate of return. All these terms are used interchangeably. Whatever term is used, the rate of interest used for discounting reflect the cost of the finance that will be tied up in the investment, right? So there are four widely used appraisal methods. One is the first one and the most widely used appraisal technique is the net present value, then the internal rate of return. The other one is the payback period and accounting rate of return. So the payback period and accounting rate of return are comparatively less in usage. They are not so widely used by the organization, but NPV and IRR are widely used in organizations. So what is NPV? NPV is the net present value. From the name you could understand, like whatever is the present value of your all the cash flows, future cash flows. In today's terms, if you would net it with the investment, that would give you the net present value. I mean, if you invested $100,000 in a project and the present value of all the future five, I mean, if the project has a life of a 5 year, all the 5 year cash inflows is present value of all the the cash inflows spreading over 5 year is 115,000. Then the NPV is 15,000. Like your initial investment was 100,000, your present value of all the future cash flow is 115,000. When you would do the the net amount, net would come 15,000. So any project with positive NPV is viable. Project with a negative NPV are not viable. Faced with mutually exclusive project, choose the project with the highest NPV, right? The NPV is a surplus. If the NPV is zero or tiny, then the project is still providing required rate of return. NPV means that your investment is earning the required rate of return, and NPV represent the amount which is in surplus to that required rate of return, right? If your weighted average cost of capital, which consists of the required rate of return of your creditors, your financial institution, and that also then consists of the required rate of your equity or the shareholders, that comes to like 15%. So any project should be earning at least 15%, because this is the requirement of your the funds providers, which could be the bank or the shareholders, or could be a combination of the both. So anything that a project is earning over and above that 15% is is the the value addition of that project in your company, that you need to remember, right? So what does the NPV actually mean? So the difference between the sum of projected discounted cash inflows and outflows attributable to capital investment or other long-term projects. So it has just been explained a little bit more. In other words, here, like an NPV of zero indicate that project generate an acceptable rate of return. Acceptable, I mean, it is meeting the requirement of the required rate of return of your creditors and your equity or the shareholders, right? So uh, assumptions used in NPV: all cash flows occur at a start or end of year. So you would be taking it like if it is your cash flows are coming like although in practical your cash flows comes throughout the year, because you are selling, you are getting cash, and all that in your running business. But to make the thing simple, in NPV calculation we would consider that either the cash inflows or outflows are incurring at the start of the year or at the end of the year. Investment is taken as a zero, incurring at a zero period, like at the start of the period. And then these are okay. Then advantages and disadvantages. It considers the time value of money in a payback period and accounting rate of return. They don't take into account the time value of money. Is an absolute measure of return, like absolute, you know that how much amount actually you are earning. Because if we say that you are making a profit of 15%, you don't know 15% of what, right? So in NPV, when we calculate the NPV, know that we are going to make $50,000. So it is easy for the investor to understand, right? And then comes on the basis is based on cash flows, not the profits. So it would be based on the cash flow. It might be EBIT or sorry, EBT, earning before tax maybe. But it depends like what the organization decide to take as a cash flow. Consider the whole life of the project, and it should lead to maximization of shareholder wealth, because ultimately you would be selecting a project which would be adding value to the company on top of whatever is the required rate of return. So positive NPV projects would be maximizing the wealth of the investors. However, there are some potential drawback. It is difficult to explain to manager to understand the meaning of the NPV. I mean, although it has been written here, but most of the time the investor, even if they are not so much educated, they would understand what actually NPV means, or you could explain them then. It requires the knowledge of the cost of capital. That is a tricky thing, that what discount rate you would be using for the project is a tricky matter, because it would be subjective. You are sure about the cost of your debt, but determining the required rate of return by your shareholders is a complex task. So that would be more dependent on your perception rather than the practical ground realities. But there are certain tools and techniques which could be deployed to determine the required rate of return by the shareholder. It is relatively complex for the reason explained above. NPV may be rejected in favor of simpler techniques. Who actually would be doing, like the sole proprietor owner, who he would not probably be doing the discounting activity. He would say that if I invest $100,000 in this building, I would be getting a 50,000 rental every month, right? So in a year, I would be making a 600,000, and over a period of maybe 13 years, I would recover my whole investment. This is the approach of a general businessman. So for such kind of businessman, NPV might be a little complex concept. Now we will come down to the internal rate of return. Internal rate of return uh, is a discount rate at which your NPV becomes zero. So if your NPV becomes zero at a 12% in discount rate, it means that your required rate of return should not be more than 12%. If it would be more than 12%, it means that your project is not generating enough return to generate enough returns to fulfill the requirement of your creditors and your shareholders, right? So अगर 12% IRR आ रहा है तो आपका जो कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल है वो उससे ऊपर है, बैट अगर आपका उससे ऊपर है, तो then that project is not viable. Viable नहीं है, viable होगा नहीं नहीं, क्योंकि आपकी एनपीवी जीरो जिस पे आ रही है ना, आपका जो कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल है ना उससे कम होनी चाहिए, ठीक है? कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल आपके प्रोजेक्ट का जो इंटरनल रेट ऑफ रिटर्न है वो 12% है, ठीक है? यानी कि जो आपका इन्वेस्टमेंट इज गिविंग यू रिटर्न ऑफ 12%, राइट? सो if your required rate of return or the WACC is 14%, your cost of raising your finances is 14%. So that project is not even meeting the minimum requirement of the rate of return, right? You got me? नहीं नहीं, वो तो required rate नहीं. Try to understand. Like the one thing is that the returns which are generated by the project, the 12%. Okay, let me give you an example. You raise the finances from the bank, you take a loan at 14%, right? And you invest that money with, let's say, with a car rental company, and they give you every month 12%. Now you have raised the finances of 100,000 rupees, and 14% means that you would be paying them 14,000 as an interest rate every year, whereas you are getting 12,000 rupees from that rental company every year. So 2,000 you will have to contribute from your own pocket to pay the cost of your capital. So that's what I'm saying, that if the weighted average cost of capital is 14%, that is the required rate of return. That is the rate of return on which you have raised your finances. We have studied that this is the cost of your capital, right? So if you would be generating a 12% return, it means that actually you are losing 2% every year. So that's why your internal rate of return should be more than the